Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. We have Mollie. Is this your first time on the show? Have
It
you been on the
is
show before? Okay,
my
great.
first time.
Sorry, I need to introduce you before I can start talking to you. But we've got our director of client services, Mollie O'Connor, joining us on the show. Longtime listener, first time guest. Mollie, how long have you been with us at College Coach?
So yes, I'm a huge fan, Ian. I'm a longtime listener. I really am. I listen to almost every single episode. I learn something new every week. I've been with College Coach for 5 years.
5 years. Has it been that long already?
Because I did some admissions work. So my
Right.
background is in admissions and sales and marketing. So I did a bit of admissions work first, and now I am in a client services role.
Right. So you are one of the people that has conversations with families that want to know how they can work with me, or preferably someone not me. They'd rather, pick another educator. And so you get all kinds of questions from parents who are going through this process and thinking about, do I need outside support from an expert in this space? What do you see, especially right now, is the most common concern or source of anxiety or worry that you're getting from families that lead them to set up an initial call with you?
Yeah, good question. Like you said, we get inquiries from families all around the country, coming from private schools, public schools, homeschooled, different
Yeah.
situations and at different points in the process, right? So ninth graders, 10th graders, 11th graders. So the questions can differ pretty greatly depending on where they are in the process. So I think right now for the rising seniors, those students that will be applying this cycle, the
Right.
biggest questions, a lot of the things have been set in stone. What's done has been done, their coursework, their extracurriculars. So now it's, do I have the right college list? Or I haven't even started, where do I begin? And I think the essays are the big topic right now for the rising seniors. Where do I begin? What do I write about? So
Yeah.
families are looking for guidance there. For the younger students, maybe parents and families, ninth grade, 10th grade, are we doing the right things? What should we be thinking about right now with summer planning and courses and, more of that high school planning, those components.
That maps pretty well onto the conversations I have in my first meetings with ninth and 10th graders. And of course, those 11th graders where they're like, oh, we need some help writing essays. And I have to tell them, not yet, soon, but we'll help out when we get there. When you have these conversations with families, are there situations where you can say, this person really needs this additional support because of some cue that you're hearing from them that says, you know what, you're really going to want to work with us or another outfit like us that might have a good counselor match? What are you hearing in terms of those cues?
Yeah, there can be so many there too, because I think there are lots of different parts of this process. We can add so much value. I think one is for a family who maybe this is their first child, this is their first time going through the process. There may be a lot of misinformation out there.
Yeah.
They may be telling me, oh, here's what we are hearing we should be doing. And I know from my own admissions background, no, like you hear those things right away.
Yeah.
Let's help you really cut through a lot of that chatter and hone in on your own process and what you should be doing. So I think those families where they don't know much about what's coming down the pipeline and where we can add a lot of value there with education. For other students and families that maybe they do have a sense, they actually have spent so much time researching and they really know what to expect, that they may be aiming for really highly selective programs, in which case there may be some real strategic decisions they may want to make along the way that we know because we've been on the other side of the desk, but they may not know that. So I think there can be a lot of those varying situations where we can add a lot of value.
Yeah. So adding value is what you started with. It's what you finished with on that response. And I think that one of the things that people will always ask is, this is not a cheap exercise either. This can be costly. Value, though, refers to some benefit that you get as a result of it. How do you talk about that relationship between the cost of an independent counselor. You always talk about our team, of course, and what you're benefiting from in terms of that investment.
Yeah, and we actually ask our families at the end of the process, after they are finished working with us, like, what aspects have you found the most valuable? And we ask students separately and ask parents separately. And, I went back and looked at this past year, and it was the same thing. The number one thing where families found the most value was in the essay support. So I think that probably encompasses content, but also the editing and probably the organizational support, making it really manageable and breaking it into smaller pieces.
Yeah.
But some of the other things were helping with that list. Maybe students want to target scholarships, in which case there could be a real financial value there. For others, it's maybe we really help them stretch and put their best work for a reach school that they were admitted to. In other aspects that families found really, really valuable was the stress reduction.
Yeah.
Relationship, being able to have a nice home environment in those really stressful months. And then that, the strategy, application support, and just expert guidance.
And it's interesting because I think depending on what a family feels they need, we put more of that forward as experts in that space, right? So I'm working with a new student whose mom is like, I've been through this twice with my daughters. And with this student, what I really want is more support on identifying some colleges that are out there, because I feel like I don't know what the possibilities are going to be for my youngest. Totally different set of priorities and preferences. How can we figure out what that's going to look like? And that's very different from a family that comes in and says, help us figure out what courses we should be taking, because we don't have a counselor that's having these conversations with us in the school. And we need a little bit more help to understand what colleges are looking for when students are applying, what their application, what their transcripts ought to look like. So it's very interesting. I have to put on different hats in terms of, and everybody's going to get the same kind of content, but you have to put a different kind of foot forward as an educator to meet those needs of the families. Sometimes, though, there are families, I don't think they ever get to me, but there are families that don't necessarily need outside help, that are going to be pretty confident and comfortable on their own. Do you have conversations with families where you're like, you know what, this may not be the best fit for you, or you probably don't need this? What do those conversations look like?
If they're applying to programs where maybe there's absolutely no holistic review, there's no essay work, yes, we will say, this is pretty much administrative, right? If you're applying to community colleges or maybe some of the Cal States, or again, schools and programs where you don't have that. But to be honest, no, I would say most of my conversations, there are ways we can help. And even if it's a BC student that's not gunning for the most highly selective programs, they may find so much value in the guidance around interest exploration and choosing majors, and really, again, kind of helping build the confidence that they're making great choices.
Yeah.
So I would say most students and families can benefit from our support in one way or another. But absolutely cognizant that the price point, that is not going to be realistic for everyone. So we, I think as a team, do such a great job of putting together great resources available for free. We actually have a webinar tonight. By the time this airs, it will be available, I think, to view. We'll record that.
Yeah.
This blog, this podcast, and our blog. So we put together a lot of great free resources for families as well.
Yeah, our goal is, as individuals, is of course we want to make a living, but we also want to be in a position where we can reach as many families as possible, which is why we answer these questions on the podcast and want you to help be connected with resources. And even if it doesn't mean working with our team of experts, we want to make sure that every student's able to put their best foot forward in the application process. One of the things that I think flies a little bit under the radar for our team, and we always devote a segment of the podcast to our finance experts, because they're such a big part of what we do here. Do you often find, or do you ever find, that there are situations where a family calls you and it's not really the admissions content where they need the support, it's actually in the financial aid conversations, and you're fortunate to have that as something you can point to as a part of our service?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it is, as they're building the college list, what makes sense for us, what's a great financial fit, and we can guide them there in building a list that's realistic and fits their needs. And also sometimes on the back end, after they already have their offers of admission, understanding, hey, can I negotiate here? Is there anything better I can get, or help me understand these offers? So yeah, I think about a third of our families leverage our financial support in one way or another.
It's actually pretty cool because you'll sometimes see circumstances where a family will work with our finance team, and after the decisions have come back, and they will use that expertise to negotiate a better financial aid package. And you'll find that improvement in that aid package actually pays for their college coach program and then some, right? So it's like, wow, just by signing up, I was able to get a better scholarship offer. And so that makes a difference, I think, in that context.
Huge. Yeah.
Anything that you would, we just had a conversation last week as a part of a team and thinking about how to connect families and especially students with the right educator. We've got so many wonderful experts here, but we're really, really different. My style is going to be quite a bit different from Sally's, and that's going to be different from Beth's. And I'm just picking on the three of us because we're the host of the radio show. What tips or advice would you give to families as they are trying to identify that educator who's going to be the right person to work with them? Does it make a difference who they work with in the process, and why? What are the aspects that do help support a student's growth?
Yeah, I think you have to look at it just like a teaching environment. In the school, a class environment, it's going to be a great class if you have a great connection with that teacher and really connect with their style. Mm-hmm. I think similarly, if we can help find a great fit with the educator that you're working with, guiding you through the college process, you're going to have a better experience. You're going to feel a good connection with them. You're going to open up, you're going to brainstorm and share your experience, your life experience, and help really craft your best applications. So we definitely are encouraging families to look beyond just the resume. Obviously, that experience has to be there. Everyone on our team has worked in admissions, but to really look at personality fit, counseling style, right? Some of those things. And I would say that's one of the most fun aspects of my job, is to learn about a student, help think about their wants and needs, and make some suggestions on who on the team might be the best match.
And we just, we're growing. And so we've got a whole new crop of wonderful hires, and you're going to love them. I mean, Molly, in terms of like matching them with students, they're just so great and dynamic and interesting. And I think it's really, it reminds me of kind of the hiring process. When you are making a hiring decision for any kind of firm, often the reason that you make the offer is something that's on their resume, but the reason that a person might not be a fit tends to do with culture and personality. And it can sometimes be the same thing here, right? If you choose someone by virtue of what's on their resume, you might not find as great a working relationship as just having that connection in terms of that personality alignment and the stylistic overlap. And yeah, we try and I tell students, like, when they're meeting me for the first time, you have to be comfortable seeing my face and having to listen to me in the middle of October when you're stressed about essays. Like, you have to not hate that conversation. And if you're going to hate that, then go meet with another one of our experts. I think you'll have a better opportunity there. I'm going to ask you the question that I most dislike getting, because it's the hardest to answer, which is, what are the questions that people should be asking you when they call up and are pursuing a possible independent counselor? We'll finish with that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I get asked that too. And if there are certain parts of the conversation we miss, I think the big one is ask, what is their track record? What is their experience? Before you work with a counselor, have they been a decision maker? And does my child get a chance to connect with you and see if it is a good fit? I think that is huge, making sure that the student really feels comfortable with that match before they get started.
Yeah, there's a great example of someone that I met with, and then they also met with a colleague, and they decided to go with the colleague. And I don't take that person. I think that's fantastic, because they're going to have a better match. They're going to have a better experience. So we're always looking for that. And of course, and I know that our expertise is always decision makers in the room.
Yeah.
So, okay, Mollie, when I teased this last segment, I was like, we'll see if our director of client services is pro independent counselor or not. Turns out, yes, you are.
100%.
Yeah. So great to have you on the show. I hope we can have you back again because you have many talents and much to offer our audience. Thanks for coming on.
Would be my pleasure, Ian. Thanks so much.
All right, fantastic. When we come back, we are going to turn to one of our finance experts and talk a little bit about some LGBTQ plus scholarships since it's Pride Month now. Don't go away.